What's a goodie, Kevs gang? Welcome back to another reaction with your boy. Alright, how good was Mr. Wilt Chamberlain? I'm not about to say that sentence. How good was he, I have to be honest, this might be the one basketball player I have never checked out anything about, ever. I've always heard about him, heard talks. I've never bothered to check out anything. So this is gonna be a pretty fun video for me. Hopefully for you too. Alright, let's hop into this though.
Wilt Chamberlain is often considered the most dominant force that played the game of basketball, and one of the greatest players of all time. We already have the top 10 amazing facts on Chamberlain on this channel. And in this video, we'll try to further debunk the myth that is Wilt the Stilt. We'll try to answer the question of how dominant he really was, why he only won 2 championships, and why he didn't really like to dunk. So stay tuned.
Keep your face
Most
pretty.
versatile athlete ever. Wilt Chamberlain was the strongest NBA player ever, and numerous stories confirm this. Arnold was the strongest NBA player ever, and numerous stories confirm this. Arnold Schwarzenegger once said that Wilt could lift him up like he was nothing, and multiple 240-pound NBA players said the same thing. Chamberlain was an undefeated shot putter in college, and his record bench press was 550 pounds.
Jesus.
At the age of 59, Wilt was still benching 465, more than some bodybuilders in their prime. Other than strength, Wilt was also extremely fast and agile. He could run a 40-yard dash in 4.6 seconds, and his personal best at 100 meters was 10.9, which is mesmerizing for a guy that is 7'1". Allegedly, at a Hollywood party, NFL Hall of Fame running back Jim Brown raced Wilt on a dare, and Wilt won. Brown, who was still in his prime, demanded a rematch, but Wilt beat him again. Wilt was also extremely athletic, with a vertical leap of over 40 inches, with some reports saying it was even 48 inches, which would qualify for the highest NBA vertical ever. And he was doing that in Chuck Taylors, which makes it even more impressive.
Wait, what? This guy was playing basketball in those. Bro, I can't walk in them. Like, straight up, I cannot walk in these, man. He was playing basketball. You know his toes were looking like this.
With crazy strength, speed, and jumping ability, it's safe to say Wilt was the best athlete ever.
Jesus.
LeBron's and Usain Bolts of the world would give him a run for his money, but neither of them could match his strength. The best shot blocker ever. When there is any talk about Wilt, people usually start with 100 points in a game and 50 points per season. His offense made him famous, and it sold tickets in newspapers. But what is rarely discussed is Chamberlain's defense. While he probably was the best defender in the league, and yes, that also includes Bill Russell. Wilt and Russell were the premier shot blockers in the league that didn't count shot blocking. But if it did, Hakeem Olajuwon wouldn't be the NBA all-time leader in blocked shots. When Walter Bellamy first came to the NBA, he had one of the best rookie years ever, averaging 31.6 points per game. To this day, Bellamy's scoring is the best ever by an NBA rookie, behind only Wilt Chamberlain, of course, who averaged 37.6 in his inaugural season. The first time Bellamy played Wilt, they both met at half court, and Walter introduced himself. "Hello, Mr. Chamberlain. I'm Walter Bellamy." Wilt then replied with, "Hello, Walter. You won't get a shot off in the first half." Wilt blocked Bellamy 9 times in a row in the first half. When the second half began, Wilt walked over to Bellamy and said, "Okay, Walter, now you can play." He did a very similar thing to Magic Johnson in 1980. At UCLA campus, Magic would play pickup with various college and NBA players in the offseason. Wilt showed up and got in the game. After Magic called a non-existent foul, a 43-year-old Chamberlain got mad. There will be no more layups in this gym, and he blocked every one of Magic's shot after that and ran him out of the gym. Wilt is also the only guy to block Kareem's skyhook, the most unguardable move in history. Wilt played against himself, and then everyone else. Wilt's mother emphasized to him that he is different because of his size, that he's going to be stared at, and that he must use it in a good way, and always be well-mannered and kind. So, Wilt grew up an extremely good-natured guy, and on the basketball court, he received a lot more punishment and knocks in the paint that he would give away. He knew that he could beat everybody up, but he refused to do so. Former NBA player and coach Jack McMahon said it best. The best thing that ever happened to the NBA is that God made Wilt a nice man. He could have killed us all with that left hand. This behavior was reflected in the way he played the game as well. Wilt was the biggest, strongest, and most athletic player in his era. He could have easily dominated the game with his physical prowess alone. But unlike Olivia Newton-John, Wilt didn't want to get physical, at least not all the time. "Nobody loves Goliath," Wilt said to Sports Illustrated, explaining that he wanted to show the world he's a skillful player and not just a brute force. He also admitted that him playing a finesse game and trying to be a versatile scorer actually hurt his career. "What hurt me was that I wanted to be a consummate basketball player, and I wanted to be able to shoot the ball instead of just taking it to the basket and dunk it as I should have. I had great satisfaction shooting fadeaway shots, hook shots, finger rolls, and a lot of times that was a negative more than a positive. If I just went out and took it to the basket every time, I'd have averaged 70 or 80 points a game," Wilt said. Things that were extraordinary were just ordinary for Wilt. And if we look at Wilt's stats, there is a huge discrepancy from the first half of his career, when he shot more than 30 times per game, and the second half, when he averaged only 13 field goal attempts per contest. Wilt was his own man, not really bothered too much by everyone else. And if he set his mind to do something, he would do it. So, after the 65-66 season, Wilt decided not to score as much. After he averaged 40 in his first 7 seasons, he wanted to prove that he can also pass, and became the league leader in assists, and is still the only center with this achievement. Can you imagine Michael Jordan saying one day, "Okay, fellas, I'm not scoring anymore. From now on, I'll only pass"? Everybody would think Mike had gone mad. After Wilt decided to pass the ball more, the press wrote a story that he couldn't score anymore. So naturally, in the next 3 games, the Big Dipper had 62, 55, and 48 points just to prove them wrong. Wilt was as potent as ever, and the athletic freak that he was, he could have averaged over 30 for every year of his career. He just got tired of it. Watching Wilt, you always kind of got the idea he was just playing with people, that he was on cruise control and still 10 times better than anybody else that was playing at that time, said Dan Issel, a former NBA player and coach. Two very different men, both larger than life, and forever linked in history of the game. Any conversation about Wilt almost always involves Bill Russell, and vice versa. They were the 2 best players of their time, and their careers will forever be intertwined. With his physical ability, statistical achievements, and pure dominance over everybody else, Wilt would likely be considered the best player ever. However, he's not even considered the best player of his time. And for a casual fan, he's just a guy with good numbers, while Russell was the winner.
Whoa,
and the truth
I am getting lost in this again, man.
In 94
this
regular
is a watch
season
through.
meetings, Russell won 57 to Chamberlain's 37. In 49 playoff games, Russell came away victorious 29 times to Chamberlain's 20.
Jeez.
Between the years 1960 and 1969, Wilt's teams were faced against Russell's Celtics 8 times in the playoffs, with 4 of those going to the deciding Game 7. Russell won all 4, but the total point differential was just 9 points in all Game 7s combined. So, a couple of bounces the other way, and the rings narrative could have been different. Also, Russell had the best coach in the game and better teammates. However, that was also by design. Russell wasn't the physical freak like Chamberlain, and was not a highly touted player. Bill quickly realized that for success, he needs the whole team around him to be great. Russ wasn't as good a scorer as Wilt was, and even though he was capable, his intention wasn't to score himself. He always wanted to get the rest of the guys involved. He was the passer at his position. But unlike Wilt, he wasn't trying to lead the league in assists to prove it. Russell wasn't a better individual player than Wilt. It was the other way around. If they played one-on-one, Wilt would always come up on top. In their 94 regular season games, Wilt averaged 30 points and 28 rebounds to Russell's 14 and 23. In the playoffs, it was similar. Wilt had 25.7 and 28, while Bill averaged 15 and 24.7 boards. But Russell was a superior leader and didn't care about the numbers and what others might think of him. And there lies the secret. Russell's game was constructed around team basketball. And because basketball is a team sport, the result in championships is 11-2, even though some of the series were really close and could have gone the other way. Wilt would have been better off in an individual sport, and he understood that too. Sometimes the mere power of you makes you more the individual player. Russell was more complete and was able to help his team win more than I did. Wilt Chamberlain on the Boston Celtics would not have been the same. I would take away from Bob Cousy and Tom Heinsohn because I was a scorer too. So sometimes less is better. Wilt said about the eternal question of who is better between the two. Wilt was the Renaissance man. Wilt Chamberlain was a guy larger than life, who lived life to the fullest.
This guy was able to lift Arnold?
And
That's
wanted
crazy.
to experience everything. He had a big heart, but was also a huge loner. And if you understand who he was as a person, that gives you a better understanding of who he was as a player. He achieved the biggest scoring feat in NBA history, and then decided it was time to start passing, and became the best passer in the league. He could have dunked everything, but wanted to become a versatile scorer. He still holds the record for the highest field goal percentage ever. He slept with one woman, only to start flirting with the next one. After he retired from basketball, he became the best volleyball player.
That's
with
that
Wilt
height.
really was. Never satisfied, always exploring and moving to the next thing. If he wanted to, he could have settled down. If he wanted to, he could have dunked every ball and won more championships. But that would have been boring. That would have been too physical, and he wouldn't have explored everything he could do. And that explains Chamberlain as a player. He was a Goliath who didn't want to be just the Goliath, because it's not as challenging, and nobody likes those guys anyway.
Damn. All I have to say is this man was out here lifting Arnold. Like, what? And he's the only person who was able to block Kareem. So that's actually fire. That's sick. I feel like I would like to know more now about him. If you would like to see me react to more about Mr. Wilt, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and do subscribe. We are on our way to that 1,000 subscriber count, and I'd love you to join in to that. As always, link to the original video will be linked down below. We are out.